Okay. Thank you for your suggestions. I will try in the next time to be brief in the slides. Actually, this is my first presentation. I was trying yeah. But thank you for your corrections. Regarding the correlation, I just do some multicollinearity, but I did not put in the slide.
Oh, okay.
But I have the manuscript here already. Maybe if I can open, and also considering the gender, because in 2022 it is the day that we did the survey. I just consider, because you could find an household whereby you can find a woman. Sometimes you can find an old guy. So I just capture all. And concerning the bias partial, I think I don't know if you mean the
In this case, the data that you collected,
yes.
You know how subjective qualitative researches are. So what did you use to ensure validity of your study in case there were partial judgments? So that no rise up from anywhere to say you cooked data.
Okay, the first thing we do before we start the research is that I just consult the managing director of the Outgrowers company, and he gave us the number of all the tea farmers. It was 4032 in the 13 sub locations, and then we tried now to see how much farmers can we make an interview, and we use now the Yamana formula, whereby I can show here. I was trying to show how I arrive at. Yeah, this is we had 412 tea farmers, and in that regard, I now follow this Yamane formula, whereby I just follow this, and then we got 603. But we just consider, because this is too much in terms of money. But we later, my former supervisor tell me that we should look for the people, so that we can at least have 591. But in the long run, those 79 also did not give us the report, because they fear that if they can give the report on how they take their tea, because it was like case sensitive for them, so they did not give us, and we just discard that, and we finally got 512.
Yeah,
because
so
we were 10. Yeah.
Yeah, I get your point. This expression here is just what you use to arrive at the sample size. And you stated that you use, if I heard you right, purposive and then to some extent snowball in this regard. My question specifically is, how did you validate or ensure there were no bias judgments? Or how did you validate your results?
The first thing is we just do a data cleaning using the SPSS, and later we transfer the data to the starter. I don't know if...
Okay, so because we don't have so much time, if you intend to publish this work, and then if you intend to put it out there, it is important that you ensure or you check out for validity. You can use, we have analytic hierarchy process, which is AHP. We have fuzzy analytic procedure. All these ones, you can just use them to assign weight to the responses that they give to you. So it's just something that is just an advice on how you can use, or what methods you can use to validate or to ensure that the judgments that the various respondents actually give to you are valid and could be used to draw logical conclusions. So kindly take note of that. Okay, so I think basically that I don't need you to pull out the manuscript or if.
Okay. I cannot hear you anymore.
Okay, can you hear me? Yeah, I was saying that you can use AHP or fuzzy analytic hierarchy process or fuzzy analytic process or any multi-criteria decision to assign weight to the responses that they give to you. It will help you. It actually it's used to remove any element of subjectivity. So the weight assigned to their responses will tell or will make respondents know that whatever results you generated are valid and could be used to draw logical conclusions. Yeah. And I'm saying that because we'll be putting this out there, you need to ensure that you provide justifications. So with the variables like the age, gender, and then other parameters, you can liaise these socio-demographic characteristics to the drivers. The drivers, you can just categorize them. We have core drivers, approximate, and then underlying drivers. Try to do so. Let me just, because we don't have so much time, let me just pause here. If anything, you can just contact me or you can just contact the organizers and I could give you more comment on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Doc. Thank you so much, Mr. Limo. Dr. Mrs. Edujemfi, please, you're around.
All right. Thank you very much. Greetings to everyone. Okay, that was an informative presentation, more especially in the agricultural market, specifically for the informal tea production. That is the nice one. Okay, I have just one question for you. And I'm also pleased by the factors that you mentioned, more especially about the promoting fair prices for the farmers, because you know that most of the time farmers get lower price for their products, even though they produce them, but it's rather unfortunate that sellers or let me say buyers give them low prices for their products. So I want to find out, is there any challenge that the smallholders and farmers access the formal market?
Can you repeat again? Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, repeat.
Do they have any problem, challenges that the smallholder? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. My question is there any challenge that the smallholder farmers face to access the formal market? If there's any, can you elaborate on it for us?
I think the main challenge where these people, these challenges actually are for those farmers who are the resource constraints, who are like having small farms, but you just find that those who are owning large scale farms, they cannot entertain to just participate in the informal market because they know in the long run they can earn bonus and also the monthly income. So you find that the key issue which drive these farmers to engage in this informal is the issue of the emergencies, like the need of the immediate cash, because we just ask them why are they engaging, and they say that if they try to go to the to try to obtain the loan, they are being told that because of the small farms, they are not given loans because they cannot even try to repay on time, or they can even continue to resell the tea. So they are just saying because they cannot even get the loans, they are just they just make this like they just prefer this because they can obtain those money fast. I don't know if I answer well.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Mrs. Edujemfi. Thank you so much. Mr. Limo, I hope you are jotting down the points from the panelists.
Yes, I have written more. It is so important for me.
Yeah. All right. Prof. Apia, please, are you here with us? Can you make it brief for us if you're here? Prof. Apia. Prof. Apia, please, are you here? All right. I think Prof. Apia is not here. So that gives you the leverage.
I'm around.
Oh,
I am around. I am around. Don't let this cap pass by me. I am around. I am around. Dr. Mike, you are not being fair to me. You are my body. Why do you do this to me? Everything brief. Don't do that. If you don't take care, I'll get an issue with you. Yalla. I'll get an issue with you. An Arab man will say, yalla. I'll get an issue with you. All right, that is a very nice presentation. And I have some few questions, and I think when he is able to answer those questions, he can also include them in the paper. I don't know whether it's a paper or a thesis. The first one is the conceptual framework looks simple. We are all trained in China, and if you look at the conceptual framework that you presented, it looks simple. You can see this directs to this, this directs to this, this directs to this. It looks so simple for me. Make it a little complex. I don't know the level of your level, whether master's, but if it is PhD, I think it is very simple. And when I get hold of a paper like this, as a reviewer, I will reject it because it is simple and you can just pick the ideas very easily. It is PhD. If it is PhD, you have to work on that. Then we go to, you made mention of the study is a cross-section. The data collection is a cross-section. Data collection. Yes, you made mention of something like cross-section. If there is cross-section, how do you deal with the issue of cross-section dependence? Because the moment it crosses, the likelihood that one variable may depend on the other is high. So how are you able to solve a problem like this? Yeah, so you will answer me on that. And to the results, I can see regime 1 and regime 2. Yes, you need to explain to us in these two regimes, which is, or which of this regime is better for the producers or for the marketing, the tea marketing, the informal tea marketing should concentrate on, because you gave two regimes. And once it is two regimes, it means it's talking about two different things. So you have to let us know the one that you think, or the results that comes out is able to what? To help us to know which of these regimes that the marketers need to what? Focus on. So you work on that for me. In your results too, there's some variables were significant and some variables were not significant. Let us know what reason or what are some of the factors that caused some of these variables to not have a significant effect on the dependent variable. So you have to let us know some of the reasons behind this. And the last part is the policy implications. I didn't see any cutting edge policy implication. Let me read one policy implication here. This policy implication, then number 2. You say that all those smallholder follows blocking requirements. Informal marketing contributes greatly on lowering quality. It is important for T-bots and other key stakeholders to strengthen quality control standards. When we say strengthen quality control standard, which aspect of this quality are you talking about? Are you talking about the planting? Are you talking about the harvesting, or what? Let us know. So you have to give us a cutting edge policy, because this is where most of the policy makers, most of the decision makers pick their policies and strategies from. So you have to give us what? A cutting edge. If you tell me as a reviewer, if you tell me I should improve on key stakeholder to strengthen quality control standards, you have to be a little specific on what you are trying to tell us, so that when policymakers and when decision makers pick your paper and they read it, they know that when we implement this policy, when we take this policy into consideration, we will be able to get better results for our farmers, or for our companies, or for our organization. So this is it, and the questions in them, you can give me answers, and the suggestions, you keep them and you improve upon them. Whether it is paper or whether it is whether it's thesis, you can improve upon it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your reviews. I think I will improve the conceptual framework. I will improve it even by tomorrow. About the cross-sectional dependency problem, honestly, I did not. I just use the PCM to check for the robustness. I never consider cross-sectional. Maybe I will also have to check on it. That one about the results, I can go back to show about the regime 1 and 2.
All right, Mr. Limo.
Okay.
So I think Prof would expect, almost all the panelists would expect that you inculcate all this into your work. As we've said from the one, the main focus here is to make sure that you are getting the right inputs for your work so that you can be published. So we would be grateful to see your work published, so that we'll be glad that all these inputs that you've been given has been put to proper use. Thank you so much, our panelists. And Mr. Limo, thank you so much for also being with us. If you have any other further questions, I believe that the panelists are still readily available. You can please reach out to them if you have any concerns, any doubts, or any comments, and I believe that they'll be there to help you. Thank you so much once again. So I think because of our time, we are going to quickly move to the next presenter. And this next presenter is actually a third-year financial statistics and risk management PhD candidate of Zhejiang Gongshang University in Hangzhou here in China. He holds a bachelor's degree in actuarial science from the prestigious Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology in Ghana, and a master's degree in mathematics from Jiangsu University. In fact, he tells me that he's a lover of the financial market. And presenting on the topic, so those of us who are actually into cryptocurrency, I think this is your field. He's presenting on the topic, unraveling the complexities of cryptocurrencies, examining fiat currency interactions in the ECOWAS region. Please help me welcome Dr. in view Andrew Kwamina Bram as he presents on his topic. So Mr. Bram, if you are ready, we are ready for you.
Hello, please can I be heard?
Yes, please, and we'll please be very grateful if we would see you, if you could project, I mean, your.
Yes, I will be seen, I will be seen.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, moderator. You have actually added more pressure to me. Yeah, the way you mentioned the schools like that. All right, yeah, I should be sharing now. Yeah. Okay, so I'm talking on this topic, unraveling the complexities of cryptocurrencies, examining fiat currency interactions in the ECOWAS region. The topic is big, but the concept is simple. So because we want to understand the whole concept of this topic, just in case you are not from a financial background, I will just use a simple analogy. We are basically going to discuss transmission and receivers. which is to say we are going to look at things that influence other things. But in this case, in finance, then it will be more like variables. And if variables, then assets. So a typical example that can help is we've all been to primary school, and you realize that there's this particular student in the class who always causes issues. And when a person causes issues, the rest of the students end up punished because of that particular issue. And then there are the other ones too who are in the class who don't cause issues, but always find themselves being punished because of what the other person has done. So in our context, the one who is always causing issues, being stubborn and all that, becomes someone who transmits these issues. Then the one who cannot talk for himself and will just be sitting there is the one who will be receiving that kind of feedback after the teacher wants to cane or whatever. In the same way, you can get a student who will be a good student, but stubborn. So this good student will be able to understand the thing from the lashe or the teacher, and then will be able to teach other students. In that case, he's transmitting, but he's transmitting something good. But in that same student, he's a stubborn person who can also cause issues for you. When it comes to everyone should put their head on the table, they lash you and all that. So basically, this concept is looking at the market and looking at items in the market, variables in the market, assets in the market that transmit shocks, for which others in the market are also receivers of that shock. So this topic is basically the dynamic linkages between, in this context, we focus on only Bitcoin, which I'll come to that. So the linkages between Bitcoin and ECOWAS currencies. So just keep this analogy in your mind, and as you go, you'll properly understand it. So this will be the content, the introduction, the data, the method, the empirical analysis, and then the conclusion. So in this study, because of Bitcoin's market capitalization, we are going to use that one to represent the cryptocurrency, more like a proxy for it. And so we know that Bitcoin was first introduced in 2008, and then it has grown from there to this time. As of 2022, the market capitalization had exceeded 1 trillion. It is decentralized in nature, and so it sort of helps with, let me say, hedging. It is not influenced by other currencies per se, fiat currencies. And so we are trying to look at influence or the relation between Bitcoin and currencies in the ECOWAS region. And in the ECOWAS region, we are looking at 15 diverse economies. So the ECOWAS region, as I said, is made up of 15 member states, Ghana, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and all that. So we are trying to see whether these currencies are able to relate well with Bitcoin, and how are they able to impact each other or influence each other. So though Bitcoin has become more than quite recently, one Bitcoin rose up to $70,000 plus, we see that that kind of influence has not really permeated the developing countries, let me say, in our context, the ECOWAS regions. So many research has always been on how Bitcoin relates to developed countries, developed economies. And so basically, our research will be looking at how Bitcoin relates to the ECOWAS currencies and how they also relate to Bitcoin. And so the objectives are that one, we want to analyze the relationship between Bitcoin and ECOWAS. We want to assess Bitcoin's role as an investment tool and hedge against traditional market risks, to understand the broader economic implications, and then to also address the knowledge gap in the study of cryptocurrencies in emerging markets. So with our data, we will be using 8 sub-regional currencies. The Given, it's all listed there. And the data is taken from November 2015 to November 10, 2023. And it's comprised of 1,840 observations. We took this data from the Google Finance website. Because of time, you'll not be able to show the descriptives, but they are all perfect. So moving to the methodology, we will be using the time varying parameter vector auto-regression model. In this case, we'll be looking at frequency connectedness. So I want to briefly talk about frequency connectedness. So the time varying parameter vector autoregression model basically analyzes the interrelation between assets. We look at the relation of or how one asset impacts another. Now, when we add the frequency connectedness, then we are looking at when there's something, for example, in the example I gave, when that child or when that student does something, does it have short-term implications? Does it have long-term implications on the other students? And so when the student does something immediately and the teacher comes in, all hands on the table, that's a short-term consequence. At that moment, everyone will be caned. But a long-term consequence can go much further. Maybe you are not caned, but then the teacher will show you power at the exams time, where the questions are extremely difficult and you cannot solve. Why? Because of only that one person who did something wrong. So in this analysis, we are looking at the impact of effect from one, in this case, currency, onto another. But in the context, short-term impact or long-term impact. I want to skip all this mathematics, but what is there right now is the TVP-VAR model. And then continuing, the first I'm talking about is the time domain. So I now move from the time domain to now come and talk about the frequency domain, which is talking about short-term and then long-term. So all these are some steps which I've already skipped some of them, but this will be the main focus. So in the end, what we are deriving is that we want to look at these connectedness measures. First, we look at the, let me say the two. So the two is with all the assets in the network, like all the 8 currencies plus BTC, when we take, let's say, BTC, what is the influence of BTC to the network? Then the from, which is equation 10, is looking at what is the influence of the entire network to that BTC, that is the one. And then we have the net connectedness. The net connectedness look at the difference between these two. Whether you are the one receiving impact or you are the one giving the impact, what's the difference between them? Then we also have the net pairwise connectedness, net pairwise dynamic connectedness, where we look at the connectedness pairwise. So we will now be looking at between BTC and Ghana cedi, or between Nigeria, Naira, and then Ghana cedi in that way. Then we have the TCI, which is the total connectedness index, which looks at the entire network, and we try to measure the overall connectedness of it. So coming to the empirical analysis, we have the first table, which is the total average returns connectedness. And so you see that the bottom left, the very last one, shows the TCI, which is the total connectedness index, 23.86. So that one tells us the overall connectedness of the network, how connected they are, how interconnected they are, which all it means is that when that student does something wrong, what's the probability that actually the thing will affect the classroom at a mega scale or not? So that total connectedness is up to 100. So with 23, it then means that there is low connectedness within this market, which means that they are so not connected. If you look at the individual currencies, we can see that Ghana cedi, if you look at the net row, you see that Ghana cedi is a net transmitter, meaning that when there is any shock in the Ghana cedi, it actually affects the rest of the network. Likewise, we have CV following with 2.57, and then the West African CFA with 2.21. All this means that they are able to transmit shocks that happen within their currency. Then the other ones who are also receiving such shocks are the Guinean franc, which is 4.45, the Gambian dalasi 2.55, and then the Nigerian Naira 2.51. So these currencies are currencies which basically receives such shocks from the other currencies I mentioned earlier. Now, bringing them down, we come to the short-term connectedness. So we look at the first one was the broad one. So coming to the short term, we look at when there's an incident in one currency. In the short term, what is the connectedness? What is the impact of that on the entire network? And you see that this at the bottom left, right, is 12.35, meaning that 12.35% is the impact when in the short term. And when in the short term, we see that when something happens in the Cape Verdean Esquadron, it is the highest transmitter, which means that in the short term, when something happens in the CVE, it impacts the rest of the network much faster than the CFA and then the Ghana cedi, although the Ghana cedi is also a transmitter. Then in the short term, the currencies that receive from such shocks from these other currencies are Liberian dollar, the BTC itself, and then the Gambian dalasi. In the long term, these are all average connectedness measures. These are all average results. In the long term, we see Ghana cedi still having influence in terms of impact on the rest of the network, followed by Sierra Leone, and then the CVE once again. Then we have the receivers for the long term, the Guinean franc, the Nigerian Naira, and then the Gambian dalasi. All these tables are basically average measures. So coming to the dynamic aspect of it, this figure shows how connected the network is in relation to time, which means that we can see that from 2016 coming down to 2018, 2020, there was quite low connectedness levels. But then 2020, 2022, we begin to see an increase in connectedness, which can be associated to probably the COVID time, and some geo-economic issues in there. We see another spike in 2022, early 2022 also. So the black area represents the total connectedness. Then the red represents the short-term impact. Then the green represents the long-term impact of these shocks of the network. This is the net total directional connectedness. So we now look at all the currencies individually and looking at them over time. So over time, how is their reaction? Are they becoming transmitters or are they becoming receivers? And so the 0 is the benchmark, and then above, if you see the graph above the 0, it means that at that particular point in time, that currency was actually a transmitter. And then if it's below the 0, it means that at that particular point, the currency was now a receiver of shocks. And so we see it's more like a fluctuating thing. Some of them go high, some of them come low. We have those which becomes persistent receivers, some which becomes persistent transmitters. Okay, so let me leave these ones. Then we now come to this essential part, which is the net pairwise directional connectedness. So we now look at pairwise when it comes to interactions or influences or impact between currencies. How exactly are they? So in general, when you look at the total connectedness, the currencies in blue represent those which are transmitters, and the currency in yellow are those who actually receive the shocks. So we can see that Ghana cedi, the CFA, the Sierra Leone, and then the CV are transmitters. As far as the total connectedness is, the thicker the edge, the stronger the connection. So we can see that Ghana cedi seems to have a strong connection to the Guinean franc because of how thick the edge is. Likewise, Ghana cedi and then Gambian dalasi, it could mean a lot of things. Yeah, probably due to trade agreement, whatever. So it means that the currencies seem to be trading more or something of that sort. Then likewise, we see the yellow ones to representing the receivers. If you see a currency which is not connected to anything, then the probability is that that currency is not so connected to the others. We move to the short-term connectedness, and we see that there are a lot of edges going on, a lot of connections going on. So this implies that in the short term, when there is a shock in, or there's a disturbance, or there's an event that happens in this network, in the short term, there's a high impact. There's a high impact going on. And so we see that there are lots of connections going on. The Ghana cedi and the Gambian dollar, Ghana cedi and franc, Naira and franc. So you see that kind of thing going on. So it means that in the short term, there is high connectedness going on. But when we move to the long term, we now see that in the long term, there's not much influence on the network. And so you see others like sparse, not connected to anything. So when we look at BTC, we see that the Bitcoin itself is not so connected to the currencies. What this one suggests to us is that it is possible that the West African region has not really embraced the digital currency, as it were. You've not really embraced Bitcoin, although it's in the system. It's not so much. Okay, it is not so much connected. Let me come to the conclusion. So with the conclusion, we see that first of all, there is low connectedness between Bitcoin and the other currencies, which this signifies that there is prospect for good diversification. What low connectedness means is that when I invest in any of these assets as a portfolio, I am a little bit safe because there's not much blowback when something happens in the other. And we see the transmitters and then the receivers also identified. In the short term, between Bitcoin and the ECOWAS, it suggests that opportunity for enhancing financial inclusion and streamlining cross-border economic activity is very necessary. Then some of the policy and investment strategies will be that policymakers should work towards frameworks that accommodate rapid development and inherent risks of digital currencies. So in as much as we can adopt digital currencies as part of what we do, we also have to be mindful of its effects as far as risk is concerned. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Brown, for that. Professor Apia, please, are you there?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, Brown, what's up? How are you?
I'm good.
All right. Dr. Micah, I think you are lost in this area. Apparently, Dr. Micah is my classmate in Jiangsu University. We all sat in the same class for 3.5 years during our PhD. So I know him very well, and he's a very good friend of mine. All right, Dr. Brown, that is a very nice presentation. It looks technical for some people, but we can add one or few things to it, and we can make our paper better. Is it a published work, or maybe it's under consideration or something, or just a new idea not bringing up?
Yeah.
Okay, then I think we can still make it better. We all know that this Bitcoin and these cryptos, as you indicated earlier, it's mostly in the developed world, and bringing it to Africa and to ECOWAS would create a lot of issues because of the real understanding about the technicalities in it. Yeah, so trading in that or dealing in such commodities in our region would be a little difficult. Okay, so I have these few questions for you. First, in your analysis, did you consider the common currency that we are coming to at least implement? Because ECOWAS is going to implement a common currency as the ECO. And the moment it comes like this, or the ECO comes into play, you see that most of these currencies that you are benchmarked against the BTC would be in use, but not so much in use because the echo will be what? In so much existence, more than the currency itself. So as a researcher presenting some things like this, what are you going to do when there is introduction of something, this echo, and it is what? It is working out so well in our region or in our sub-region. Yeah. And the secondly, I want to ask, you know, most of the African currencies are benchmarked against the US dollars. And the moment there is what? There is fluctuations in the US dollar or the volatility in the US dollar, it causes a shake in the what? In the currencies of these major West African countries. So in your presentation, I didn't see you make mention or make any make the house known about some issue of this, the dollarization and a little increase in even oil prices and some of these energy things will cause a change in these currencies. You didn't make mention of that. So you can tell us why you didn't consider the volatility of the dollar in dealing with some things like this. Because if you look at the BTC, most of this is being traded in the US dollar. Whether you are in most of the countries around the world, it is being traded in the US dollar. So you talk to us about, or you explain to us how the volatility in the US dollar is going to have, the effect is going to have on our what? On these local currencies and also the BTC in connection together. And in your presentation, I didn't hear you talk about causality. Apparently, I'm working on a similar paper with one of my colleagues in we are looking at I'm coming. Can I share my screen?
Let me stop mine. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let me check. I can't share my screen. All right. We are looking at let me just quickly look at it. We are looking at tail risk diversification of fintech and blockchain-based energy assets. You know, so we are looking at fintech and how it contributes to energy, and we are using the same technology that you are using for the BTC. And we looked at causality because we know that the results that we may get today can be used for the near future. But in your presentation, you really made mention of any causality effects, because the data and the results that we get, it will be used to forecast for the near future. So you have to let us know why that thing is not included. And if it is included, what would be your recommendation for such thing? And in our study, I'm just comparing your study to our study. We also look at we also look at portfolio analysis. You have to help. Yeah, you have to help us to know the available portfolios that when this thing comes into play, we can look at it and how it is going to help strengthen our currency, because we all can attest to the fact that the African currencies is very low. It is not so much strong enough as compared to some of the currencies of other countries. So let us know that what is the best portfolio for us to invest, and how we can make our economy our economy better. Okay. Yeah. I think I have to. My colleagues needs to talk, so I think I have to. I have more questions. I think I'm interested in your work. Maybe you can hit me up at the back, and maybe we can do a good work. And let me leave it to my other colleagues to continue. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So with the, should I answer or we should continue?
I think we'll take the inputs of the other panelists, and then you can address them. I think they're just comments and then best practices for your work. So yes, Zakia is in your field. He's a financial analyst like yourself. So I know if given the whole day, he would still talk. So please, I can see him behind closed doors and then he's still to make the work better. So I think I'll go to Dr. Mrs. Edusavo. Sorry, Edu Jimfi.
Can I be heard?
Yeah.
I tried to 2 minutes.
That's fine. All right. Thank you, Andrew. Finance Minister, hopeful in Ghana. Oh, you don't want it?
I want.
Oh, when I become the president, I'll appoint you as the finance minister. Okay. All right, that was very insightful presentation, even though it is complex when it comes to the cryptocurrency. Okay, to save time, I have just one question, and it's similar to one of the questions of Prof. Apia. I want to know if the results of your study can have important implications for the policymakers and investors. All right, that is all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Doc. So, Dr. Safo, I think you can take over now with your comments.
Yes. Okay, that was insightful. I have two questions. With so much uncertainties about cryptocurrency, what would be your honest opinion about someone who wants to invest in crypto moving forward? That is the first one. And then the second one is, we know so many governments or various central governments or states see crypto as a threat to their currency. Looking at the legality issues and its operations, you made mention of people not embracing the whole crypto idea. Don't you think the analysis that you made, it partly influences how these currencies fluctuate, especially in these countries, considering most governments not embracing it or not making it legal across board? Thank you.
Okay, so the analysis showed that there was low connectedness between the currencies and BTC, which, if I say low connected, it means that they are not so connected, meaning that you can actually adopt it. Yes, so you can actually adopt it, because right now, as I checked recently, there is the ECD, right? Yeah, there is this ECD which has come, but I think it's not really popular now, but it has been piloted. So the government are actually adopting these cryptocurrencies, only that it is now CBDC. So central bank digital currency. So in a way, government will always want to have, control, because BTC and the other cryptos, you cannot control them per se. And because they cannot really be regulated, that's why the risk is there. So that adoption is still there, but now it's been channeled to the CBDC area, where governments are now trying to, even in China here, we now have the CNY. Yeah, so they are trying to bring that digital currency. So it's actually coming up. Maybe not in the context of BTC per se, but it's actually coming up. Okay, so with the honest opinion in investing BTC, the truth is that investing is risky. Investing is risky. And we are all not Ghanaians here, but Usra Undi. If you are afraid, you can never enjoy, right? So the higher the stakes, the higher the reward. The higher the stake, the higher the reward. What we talk about when it comes to investment is that invest what you can afford to lose. If you can lose it, if you can afford to lose and you'll be fine, invest it. Because people are also trading in these cryptos and are really enjoying it. You only need to understand the markets and then make sure that crypto is actually speculative. And so today is high, tomorrow is down. Yeah, so you only need to be sharp about what you do, and then only invest what you can lose. If you do that, you'll be a millionaire in some few months. Yeah. Okay, so the implication for policymakers is what I've said. Because there is low connectedness, it means that if you're an investor, you can actually invest in these currencies, especially if you're a forex trader, you can invest in this because you know that there's not so much impact. There's not so much impact, not so much connectedness with the currencies in West Africa. And so you can decide to, when you invest in Ghana cedi and something happens in Gambia, maybe there's a war or something, there will be impact to Ghana, but to not be so high. And so as an investor, you can choose to invest in these currencies. And investing in BTC alongside with this one too, because there is low connectedness, it means that you can actually use BTC as a hedge. And so if you remember when the whole Ghana cedi was now spoiling, many people were now advocating for BTC because they will now be trading BTC, which is exactly USD equivalent. But Ghanaians, we start something and then we just leave it again. But that was an actually smart move to now move everything to BTC because you are sure that the BTC is quite stable with the USD or cryptocurrencies in general, or even USDT, which is also equivalent to the USD in digital terms, right? So that is basically some things that the investors can do. As a policymaker, they have begun some things already with respect to trying to bring in the CBDC. So they are already invested in making processes to ensure that these digital markets and these digital currencies can also be integrated into the system. It will take some time, but it will go on. So if you are a country, for example, and you are on the side of the net transmitter, then it means that you have to ensure that you make necessary policies that will put you at the edge, because you are a transmitter. So you control how the other markets behave. But if you are a receiver and then there's always you're always receiving from shocks from other places, then you have to also understand how the markets work so that you make policies such that when something happens in Ghana, the effect, because right now in this study, Ghana seems to be transmitting more. So if you are the one receiving from Ghana, you have to ensure that there are policies you put in place so that when something happens to the Ghana cedi, like what happened recently, it will hardly affect you. At the same time, for an investor, when you have something like looking at a currency which is a receiver, it suggests that that currency is also stable. When you are a transmitter, it also suggests that your currency or the environment is not so stable, it's volatile. So any small thing, then it's just going. But if you're a receiver, it means that your currency is stable in a way. So you can investors might likely come to that side because they know that your economy is stable, because you are not so fluctuating here and there like that. Yeah. The portfolio construction, we did not factor it in this one. We can look at that later. Normally, what we do is that we still, after the analysis, we now have a portfolio construction where we now suggest, based on the statistics and the methodology, we suggest that maybe these three currencies, based on the results we get, these three currencies are likely to do well as a portfolio. And so we can attach weights to them, and we say that maybe invest 20% in Gambian dollar seed, invest 20% in Ghana cedi, invest this, invest that. That's a portfolio, but the results that come after that portfolio analysis is a whole lot of weights, because in the end, it's up to you. Are you a risk lover or are you risk averse? Concerning the causality effect, this study particularly is a little bit different from causality effect, actually, because causality has got to do with more like trying to look at specifics, right? So if I look at if I take Ghana cedi and I look at Naira, what's the exact cause? What could have influenced the Ghana cedi to impact? Because for causality, you are trying to know exactly what happened. But when it comes to TVP and this spillover analysis, your focus is basically trying to look at the relation. You're not necessarily looking at the cause or per se of what happened, but looking at the trend to know how there is spillover, sort of. Then there's no mention of volatility. Actually, the currencies are all in USD, meaning that all the volatility, all the issues that's happening with oil and US dollar in a way impacts it. That is why you see in the graph that when they go to the COVID time, there was a spike, because something happens, it affects all of them. Although it might not necessarily be in the ECOWAS region, but because it is global, it also affects the connectedness of that. Yeah, exactly, Russia and Ukraine. And then what are you doing about ECHO? So ECHO, we looked at the ECHO, but the issue is that the ECHO, people are not going far with it. So it is still what it is. And if it is still what it is, I can only imagine that it will still be what it will be, right? So I cannot do a research on something that is not. Yeah, so thank you very much. And I think I'll end here. Yeah.
Thank you
Conductor.
so much, Mr. Brown. I mean, I love how the confidence and then all of a sudden you are back to yourself after going through the drill. And I also want to ask you to check the chat box. There is something interesting going on there. I think you pick a few pointers there. There is a very good discussion going there considering your topic. I realize that it's something people are very much interested in. The chairman himself is making lots of comments there, and I believe you want to check it out. Thank you so much once again. Thank you so much to our panelists. I believe that our chairperson is ready at this position to give us a few comments regarding the presentations and to the panelists themselves. So if our chairman is ready, Prof. Kluger-Brown, please, if you're ready, you can please take the floor.
Sure, I'm ready. And thank you for this nice holding of our presenters. You've really done well. You've really pushed them to deliver. What I would like to say shortly is that today's presentation, I think, follows suit from what we had the first day, the second day, and then today. More importantly, how I see people trying to bridge the theoretical aspects and then the practical aspects of their research. The other thing that I will say is that most of the presenters, since the first day to today, I would like to say that sessions like this, we would want to see how the academic aspects and then the practical aspects. So all the time when you are doing the research, though there are some research that are purely theoretical, but also linking to the topic of this conference, you can at least make some comments, some few linkages with what you are presenting. And also for the panelists, I think that sometimes it is not only for us to be like defense panelists, but also to trigger some thought process. For example, we could ask certain questions that are a little bit, an extrapolation of what they have presented. I like the questions like, what if this happened? What if something like this, you see something like this, what will be the interpretation and all that, so that it can trigger the person who is presenting or the person's research to improve. All in all, I think that everybody did well, and I hope that all the advice that you got from the panelists can improve the research and also to improve upon the development of Africa. So thank you, and I hope that the program can continue smoothly.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson.
And also, I see Mavis there, Dr. Mavis. Yeah.
Yeah, Prof.
Yeah.
All right. So we first want to say thank you so much to our panelists. I think from the very first day till now, you've been very instrumental trying to not necessarily drill our presenters, but also giving them the right pointers to make their work quite better. And just like the chairman said, we are very grateful for that. And so on behalf of NUGS, we want to show our appreciation for your time, for your efforts, for your expert direction to our presenters, and and the impact you've given all of us here throughout the program. So I'll please call on Sandra. Madam Sandra, if you are here, you happen to be the Secretary General for ANHWI, to help us in the presentation to our panelists. So Madam Sandra, please, if you are here, you can please take over. All right.
Good evening, everyone. Please, can you project the citation of honor to Professor Michael Ashman-Appiah? Okay, sorry. to Dr. Isaac Safo. Thank you. Citation of honor presented to Dr. Isaac Safo. The National Union of Ghanaian Students, China, sincerely thank you for availing yourself as a research discussion panelist during the 5th Africa's Future Beyond Aid International Conference, held on the 1st to 3rd May 2024. The event would not have been a success without your support. We deeply appreciate the willingness you exhibited in making our program meaningful, impactful, and successful. We are much grateful. Thank you. This is to Dr. Mavis Edu-Jemfi. Citation of honor presented to Dr. Mavis Edu-Jemfi. The National Union of Ghana Students, China, sincerely thank you for availing yourself as a research discussion panelist during the 5th Africa's Future Beyond Aid International Conference, held on the 1st to 3rd May 2024. The event would not have been a success without your support. We deeply appreciate the willingness you exhibited in making our program meaningful, impactful, and successful. We are much grateful, Doctor.
Thank you. I'm really honored.
This is a citation of honor presented to Professor Michael Ashmon Appiah. The National Union of Ghana Students, China, sincerely thank you for availing yourself as a research discussion panelist during the 5th Africa's Beyond Aid International Conference, held on the 1st to 3rd May 2024. The event would not have been a success without your support. We deeply appreciate the willingness you exhibited in making our program meaningful, impactful, and successful. We are much grateful. Thank you so much, Professor.
Thank you so much, Madam Sandra. I think in a span of a minute, I want to give our panelists a chance if they have anything to say in response to the citations. In no special order, I'll start with Dr. Mrs. Edu-Jemfi.
All right. I would say thank you very much. I'm really honored. I also thank the organizer for such a wonderful program. We have really done very well. That is a great program though. And then I also thank you for the opportunity given to me. But I also use this platform to say to the government to give these students support. Even though they might have a good mindset, for example, the Ratantata mindset, but when they come back to Ghana and they don't get jobs to do, they don't get any support, the mindset might change. So the support is very, very important. When they come, they should employ them in these sectors, in the health sector, the finance sector, and also the agricultural sector. This will help them to bring out what is in them, yes, to flourish. That's what I would say for now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc. I wish you would have repeated that again. The employability section.
Yeah, that one is very, very important. Yeah, so I hope the government supports. Yeah,
I hope that our guests
and I also do my best. Anybody that wants to come to Ghana can contact me. I'll do my best, and then also contact the VCs and then the management in the university so that they can also help them. Yeah. In fact, because where I'm working, we have about 5 or 6 USTC students there. We are a lot. Yeah. And I'm still talking to our VC to employ more people. Yeah.
Nice one. Nice one.
We are coming. We are coming.
So, as the official PRO of Doc, please, you can send your CVs through me. I'll screen myself. If I've not been employed, please forget.
Very important.
Yes.
Please confirm the stamp.
Pardon?
No, I was saying that Dr. Godfrey's request is approved and stamped.
Oh, okay.
Very necessary. Very necessary.
The government are giving clearance to some of the universities to employ more lecturers, about 300 clearance, and they are started. Yeah.
Wow.
This is good news. Thank you so much, Doc. Dr. Safo, please, are you going to employ us as well? I'm coming tomorrow.
Hopefully. Okay, so I humbly accept this citation of honor, and with profound or sincere gratitude, I'd like to thank the NUGS-CHINA executives, the participants here, because without their presence here, and as well as the presenters, I don't think this whole gathering would have been a success. To the sponsors, and then to everyone who made this possible, we really want to say thank you. Everything we are doing here is just for us to learn. It's for learning purposes. And I strongly believe that whatever we do here is for us to contribute our quota to the development and welfare of our motherland, Ghana, and then beyond, that is Africa. So everything we are doing here is not just, some of us here had the opportunity to start this way. And then today we've gotten to where we are now. Tomorrow it may not be us, it may be you in our shoes to also contribute to the union's welfare and then everyone here. So I accept this great honor, and I would always avail myself when being called upon to help out with some of these activities. And also big thanks to Professor Brown. I think your comments and everything really stinking, and we believe that together we would help the union. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Safo. Just like you have said, I think the national president has taken note. Anytime there's a program, please call on Dr. Safo. If he doesn't come, play this back to him that he promised he will be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Safo. So, Prof. Apia, you have a minute before you fight me, please. A minute.
But I was checking the time. Dr. Mavis didn't use 1 minute. Dr. Safo didn't use 1 minute. But me, you are telling me to use 1 minute. You are not being fair. Be careful, eh? All right. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for having me. First, I want to thank God for a successful program. Yeah, it has been 3 days of power-packed share of knowledge, share of wisdom, the activation of both theoretical and practical knowledge in just 3 days. That is a very powerful and very insightful sessions. I also want to thank the chairman and all the guest speakers. I'm using this opportunity for the first time to meet some of you, and I'm really happy about the whole process. I also wish to thank the president, His Excellency Stephen. I normally call him Marcel. You all know the reason why I call him Marcel. I thank you for the opportunity, and I will always be available when you call on me for such an honor like this. And also thank the panelists, my co-panelists, for having me partner with them, because they are too knowledgeable in their fields of research. And I really appreciate the time that you allowed me to partner with you. And to you, the MC, and everyone that was on board, yeah, your presence will not, the program will not have been successful without your presence. And we give you all the thanks and the well wishes. On this note, I will accept, or I gladly accept this honor of citation, or citation of honor towards this, or in relation to this this conference. And I appreciate it so much. And I say, God bless you all. Let me say a little in Arab. Shukran, shukran, shukran.
Thank you so much, Prof. Apia, for that. So please, please being reminded that the program is not over. We are going to the next segment. So we realized from the flyers that we had around that we have, apart from the Afba, we have the AEA, which is the Academic Excellence Award. This is in honor of those of us. Of course, we're here for the manifest function of education. Of course, we might have other latent functions like finding wives and whatnot. So we please want to zoom into that. And to help us in this segment, please take an introductory speech from our national president himself, Honorable Stephen Eduyabwa himself, the national president. We please give the floor to him to give us a speech and introduce this segment to us. So,
okay, thank you very, very much. Prof. Godfrey, please, I hope I can be heard.
Yes, sir.